millennial generation, a major why of transformational church. Let me talk a little bit about what I'm talking about when I say millennial generation. They have been called Gen Y. They've been called Echo Boomers. There are probably 20 different names that are assigned to this generation. And sometimes when we begin to talk about a generation, we get into what? Generalizations. We begin to say things like, oh, this certain million do this and this certain million do that. And yet the reality of it is there are always exceptions to a generation. We understand that. But we still think that understanding generations is a helpful process, not an infallible process, but a process that helps us to understand what we are about to see in our churches, in our culture, in our nation, and in our world. So as the Transformational Church Project was going on this parallel, the Millennial Project, led by me and my youngest son, Jess, was taking place as well. Now, why did I want to study the millennial generation? Well, one thing, I want to know what we're about to see in our churches, or maybe I should say, not see in our churches. And then I wanted to find out what was unique about this generation that maybe previous generations had not known before. I'm passionate about this generation for several reasons. I have 3 millennial children. Now, I will come back to this in just a moment, but I am assigning the millennial birth dates as 1980 to 2000. I will get to that in just a moment, the why behind 1980 to 2000. Some people think that there's some mysterious process that goes into generational birth dates. All of a sudden, the boomer generation was 1946 to 1964. Gen X became 1965 to 1979, or some others even had it as a narrow range of dates. And then the millennial generation birth dates of 1980 to 2000. I tend to be a purist in the sense that I look at live birth trends to follow generations. And by the time you get to 1980, the number of live births jumped up from its low birth rate to 3.5 million per year. It still has not gone down even at 2000 and beyond, but typically you do not sign more than 20 to 21 years to a generation because the generation will no longer have commonalities. And so when the number of live births jumped up in 1980 above 3.5 million, we said we've got a new generation beginning. And then when 2000 hit and it was still going strong, a major boom of births in our nation, we cut it off at 2000 so that it would have generational commonalities. But I said I'm passionate about this generation for different reasons. One of them, having raised 3 sons. One of my sons is the oldest millennial. He was born in 1980. The middle son was born in 82. And the youngest son, who is the co-author of a book that will be coming up in about 4 weeks called The Millennials, he was born in 1985. I've written and said a lot about those boys through the years, from the time they were born to even now as they are married. They all got married within an 11-month period. It was kind of wild in the Rainer home. Most people said, well, at least you didn't have daughters. At least it wasn't, a daughter getting married. But I still had 3 sons getting married in 11 months. But a year and a half passed and something had not taken place. They had not given me grandchildren. And so I thought something was wrong with them, because a year and a half, I deserve grandchildren. After all, that is the reason they married their wives, was to give me grandchildren. And so I had to incentivize them. And I did. I made this deal with them. The first grandchild gets 100% college tuition paid by me. The second grandchild gets 50% college tuition paid by me. The third one, 25%. It is amazing the fertility rate of the Rainers just jumped right up, just like that. And within less than 10 months, I had 3 grandchildren. There's something about this in the book of Genesis. I don't know if it's about go ye therefore and reproduce, or if it is the fallenness of humanity. But one of those two hit in there. And so they forgot the last part of the caveat. You'll get 100% tuition to any college of your choice, of your child's choice, located in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And that was the extent of it. Now they're starting over, And I'm about to have the fourth grandchild, and a year has just passed in that time. Well, I have had a fascination with this generation, both from an experiential point of view and from a theological point of view. From an experiential point of view, because my son's peers were millennials, the girls they dated were millennials, I had a fascination with that. And then, as I began to see this generation grow in number, I watched it closely to see if it might surpass in size my generation, the baby boomers, the oldie guys born between 1946 and 1964. And would you know it? It did.